Hello? Are you going to introduce us? Hey, back off, man. It's not always about you. Okay. So who is it about? Is it about you? No, it's not about me. It's not about me, man. Back off, okay? What is the point of this? What are you doing? Today, it's all about a very special person. Oh my God, is it Mother's Day already? I forgot. Today, it's all about Dr. Death, as played by by the man whose name is on screen right now, okay? Alright, I see where this is going. All the stories in this episode are read by Dr. Death, so get ready for cryptid stories told by Dr. Death, starting now.
Grandma Meets a Werewolf is told to Peter Bernard, read by PQ River. My grandmother was in vaudeville back when she was a kid and a teenager. She performed with her parents as a family act. They never rose high in the billing, and by the time she had grown up, the act wasn't getting booked at all anymore. She married an insurance salesman over harsh protests from her parents, and she settled down to raise my mom and then to be the grandma that I knew. Every once in a while, she would pull out an old show business story. The time either Wheeler or Woolsey made a pass at her, the time Chico Marx asked her for a loan and Harpo wanted her not to do it. But my favorite of her vaudeville stories didn't have much to do with show business at all. That's because my favorite story Grandma used to tell was the story of the time in 1916 when she claimed she saw an actual werewolf. When Grandma first started performing, she was only 5 years old. She would do comedy and play percussion when her parents sang. As she got older, the act became more and more about her. The family were often asked to come to dinner and stay over with well-to-do individuals who had seen them perform. It was always much better than the seedy hotels they stayed in when they could afford to stay inside at all, so they always accepted. Because Grandma was a cute kid, people naturally wanted to take care of her, and her parents capitalized on that. As Grandma grew into her teen years, however, they found out that not only did the act not work as well, but they got invited to dinner by the audience members far less often. When they did get asked to socialize, by that point, it was mostly creepy guys looking to get her alone. One night, soon after Grandma's 16th birthday, this guy seemed like a gentleman, invited her dad and mom to dinner at his place and said the family could stay over. All went well through dinner, but sure enough, he snuck into her bedroom that night and tried to get handsy. Grandma says she screamed for her parents, and the guy got really mad. He threw them and their luggage out of the house, with the three of them still in their sleeping clothes. They got dressed as well as they could right there in front of the man's house, then began the long walk back to the train station. Her father wanted to sleep in the station and get the first train to the next town they were booked to perform in. Her mother wanted them to get a room in the hotel near the station. Their quarreling got increasingly heated, but the night got colder and colder. They had been walking on a dirt road near the edge of a forest. Now Grandma noticed that the forest was still there, but she still wasn't sure in the darkness where the road had gone. Her parents were too busy saying hurtful things to each other to have noticed that they might not be heading in the right direction any longer. She told me this story 3 different times, and the facts were slightly different each version. I would guess I was there for the retelling of this story in 1971, 1972, and either 73 or 74. She died in 1975 at the age of 75, which was old back then. Her memory at the end might have been a little off, and my own memory may be playing tricks on me when I remember this, but in every version of the story, the next thing that happens is She looks towards the woods, and right there, in the first row of trees, she sees an incredibly large, hairy man with the head of a feral dog. She gasped and hid behind her father, who immediately got out the pistol he carried for self-defense. He began shouting toward the forest, and my grandmother realized that her father thought it was a guy from back at the house where they had dinner. She tried to explain to him that it was something else, something larger and more terrifying than that guy. Her father called to the woods angrily, demanding that whoever was there show himself. This was the last thing my grandmother wanted to happen. She pulled her father and mother's clothes, trying to get them to leave that area. Grandma said that they could see a shadow in the trees, and she thought it was going to come out and show itself, as her father had commanded. Instead, it howled. Grandma says her father and mother both went pale when they realized that she was right, and it was not a man at all pursuing them, but a giant carnivorous beast. They tried to move away toward the station as quickly as they could, but they were all carrying luggage, and women wore a lot more clothes back in those days. It was this whole thing. So the going was not very fast. Grandma told us she knew what it wanted was her. She also realized that if a beast that large and savage wanted her, it could have her, and there was nothing her parents could do about it. She was going to have to depend on luck, or the dogman deciding not to take her for whatever reason. They still had over an hour of walking to get to the train station or any kind of civilization at all. Just then, a voice called out to them from their right. Squinting in that direction, she could make out light from lamps. They quickly headed in that direction and realized the calls were coming from an old man who was driving a wooden cart with his horse. He said he saw they had wandered off the road and wanted to warn them to steer clear of those woods at night. He told them that lots of folks wander off the road at night and are never heard from again. Grandma says she begged the man to give them a lift to the train station, but he had just come from that direction and had no need to go back till the next day. Finally, they offered him the amount they would have paid to stay at the hotel to carry them to safety, and he agreed. The three of them rode in the wooden cart in the back, watching the road behind them. Grandma said the moon was setting behind the trees and it was getting darker and harder to see. After a while, though, she started to hear sounds which seemed to indicate that they were perhaps being followed. It was all on one side, to her right, the side she'd seen the dogman on. Grandma called to the driver to please drive faster. He argued that he was going as fast as he was getting paid to go, but he was interrupted by a loud growl coming from the darkness. "Yes, ma'am, I'll drive her faster." They held on tight as the speeding cart bumped up and down and side to side all over the dirt and stone road. Grandma says that as loud as the horse and cart got, she could still hear the thing following them in the woods. And then she saw it. They all saw it. Brazenly running right down the center of the road behind them was the hairy, dog-headed man she had seen earlier. You could see him for a second in the dim light provided by the lamps. Then he'd disappear back into the darkness, only to emerge again as he gained on them. He was even taller than Grandma had realized earlier. She said he was an insane feral caveman with a dog head. I remember asking her why she called it a caveman. Did it wear clothes? She said, no. Did it have long hair, like a caveman? She said no. It had dog-length hair, whatever she meant by that. Grandma seemed to feel that this was something prehistoric, and it had the basic body shape of a man. So I guess to her, that meant it was a caveman or proto-human. So where was I? Oh, right. The dogman was now openly running after their cart. She could see it had dark gray fur, darker and lighter in various areas, and that its eyes glowed like they were lit by candles. Even when it would fall back into darkness, you could still see the eye shine for a while after the body was completely in darkness. The monster snarled and snapped at them, making it very clear its intentions toward them were of the worst kind. Grandma said it had claws on its fingers and toes, but seemed like a furry man other than that, and the head. It ran like a man, on 2 legs. She said it never dropped to 4 legs. It was walking or running bipedally throughout the entire incident. One time she told us it had no tail. The next time she said she thought it might have had one. I think I forgot to ask about the tail the last time she told the story. It seems she mainly saw it from the front, and for that reason, I'm not sure she would have seen the tail much, whether it was there or not. So there it is. A werewolf or dogman. It's gaining on them, getting closer and closer to their cart, and it has such a look of hatred on its face that Grandma said it was all she could do to keep from fainting. She's screaming at the guy to drive the horse faster. All of Grandma's family is screaming at the guy to go faster. Her mom and dad, and probably all her dead ancestors too. The theoretical idea of me was probably screaming at this guy too. After all, if Grandma got taken by a dogman, I wouldn't ever get to be born. So, in the cart, Grandma now saw the lights of the train station. The dogman did as well, and it ceased its chase, allowing them to rejoin their own kind. Grandma said it just melted back into the darkness as they approached civilization, and that was the last she ever saw it, or heard of it, or anything like it. I asked Grandma if this turned her off to show business or to accepting invitations from the audience. She said back in her day you didn't have the option of being turned off to something. Life was hard. If you had a traumatic experience in the woods, you went back out there the next day as though nothing had happened. If a member of the audience turned out to be a psycho, you were just as friendly to the next audience the next night. There was no other option. It was about survival. "Didn't you know," she asked me, "I met your grandfather when he was an audience member after one of my last shows. Now that is the real story of why I quit show business, not the werewolf story. The werewolf encounter was just another night in vaudeville. Trust me." Grandma might have preferred to put on a brave face about it, but she wouldn't have retold the story so many times if it hadn't been a shocking and memorable occurrence, as opposed to just another night in vaudeville. She was a tough old lady, but even my grandma would have been no match against the savagery of a feral dogman. We have a second dogman story in a minute, so don't go away.
Hey, do any of you like these adult coloring books or digital coloring books? I've heard that some people like them, so I made this one. You can print them out and color them by marker or crayon, or you can color them digitally in whatever manner it is that people do things like that. No, I did not draw these images. I'm the editor and the archivist. The price is $2.09 for over 60 images of scary dogmen and werewolves. We got werewolves chasing ladies. This guy here is running from a werewolf that already bit off half of one of his arms, it looks like. It's a crazy and fun, wild time. I guess you can judge for yourself if it's good for kids. I don't know. I don't have kids myself, so I can't really tell you. I know I would have liked it when I was young, but I don't know if that counts because I was a weird kid. Anyway, the link is in the description and the pinned comment, so check it out if you'd like to. Since it's digital, you can actually get it on Christmas Day as a last-minute present.
An entire pack of Dogman, as told to Peter Bernard, read by PQ Ribber. I'm fascinated by stories of dogmen because of this thing that happened to me when I was young that I'm about to tell you. But in almost all the stories, the dogman acts alone. The one and only time I saw a dogman, I think I saw 11 of them all at once. This is the story of that night. Okay, I was around 11, I guess. It was summer, New Jersey, 1970s. Hot, sweaty, boring. The internet hadn't been invented yet, etc. I was hanging with a buddy of mine, getting in trouble out at the edge of Chatham, and we ended up wandering, possibly illegally, into the Great Swamp National Wildlife Refuge. We loved it in there. It was like going back to the age of the dinosaurs. We saw weird birds and insects in there and joked around that Tyrannosaurus Rex and cavemen lived further into the park. Anyway, this one time we were in there, we stayed after it had started to get dark. We hadn't ever done that before, but we really had no sense of the possible dangers that exist after dark for two completely unprepared teenagers in a wildlife refuge. As it turns out, they call it wildlife for a reason. So anyway, my buddy and I are hanging out at a rock behind some trees on the edge of this grassy area that has a wall at one end, just a plain, nondescript wall. I can't tell what's on the other side. I'm not sure if it's a wall of a building or just a wall in the woods. I didn't think twice about it, but then I thought I saw some guy go over, lean on the wall, and light up a cigarette. I say I thought I saw this because I just noticed it peripherally. I was mainly talking to my friend and not paying attention to the wall beyond it. But I remember seeing the smoking guy because it made me think. The wall must be part of a business and there's an employee taking a smoking break. It helped me define the odd wall, and that's why I remembered it. So then, after a while, out of the corner of my eye, I think I see a bear or a Bigfoot walk over to the cigarette-smoking guy. That immediately draws my attention, and I look directly at the scene. I motion for my buddy to be quiet and look as well. When I squint, I can see that it's not a bear, and it's not a Bigfoot. It's not a man either. It's a dog walking on its hind legs. At first I thought this meant it was a dog doing a trick, and I relaxed, thinking the mystery had been explained. But then my gaze drifted over to the cigarette-smoking fellow, and I saw that he was wearing a dog head mask. That really freaked me out, and I gasped loudly. I was afraid they heard me, so I ducked down behind the rock. We both did. Now we were facing away from the scene, and we were both thoroughly freaked out. I asked my buddy what kind of a nut job wears a dog mask in the woods. My buddy didn't think it was a mask. I started looking at him like he was on drugs or something, but he was shaking all over, and he was convinced we were looking at either werewolves or maybe native shamans or shapeshifters. We sat there silently, and I considered what he had said. Then, slowly, quietly, stealthily, I turned around to face the scene across the meadow again, and I took a peek. The smoking man was now joined by a few more standing dogs. I realize now that the man was not wearing clothes, and that he was, in fact, one of the standing dogs himself. I had thought he was wearing dark clothes, but that was his fur. This was a scene of madness and horror. I whispered to my friend, "What do we do?" He whispered back, "Let's watch them." And so, that's what we did. I'm not sure how long we were there, but it must have been something like 60 or 90 minutes. One by one, more dogmen arrived. They seemed to be separating into groups and having quiet conversations among themselves, although there were also one or two who I remember standing alone by themselves. This just continued and continued as the night came on, and the sky grew darker and darker and darker. There must have been 10 or 12 of them there by that point. And then, all at once, without any warning whatsoever, every one of those dogmen or werewolves or brujos or whatever they were ran off in a different direction. At lightning speed they erupted in all directions. Several of them were heading in our direction. I only remember running after that. I remember running like nothing else existed, like the only reason I was born was to run. I did not see my life flashing in front of my eyes. I was not going to die that day. I ran over, under, around, and through every part of that forest until we reached the edge of the wild area and escaped back to the land of the humans. I never looked back, and we were both lucky enough to have never seen those dogmen ever again. A couple or 3 days later, I was in a newsstand store in town, and there was a new comic book on the stands with a werewolf on the cover. We were both talking about where the artist got it right and where he got it wrong. One of the old guys in the store was laughing at us, this Native American guy. He asked why we thought we knew what real werewolves looked like. Being kids, we just told him. We saw them lining up by the wall in the woods before they went off to hunt. The old Native American guy stopped laughing at us, and he got this weird expression on his face. Finally, he told us that his father always said that the wall in the woods was a gathering place for bad spirits. He just assumed his father was going mental when he said stuff like that, but our story was sort of freaking him out. So, anyway, fast forward to the summer of 2014. My buddy and I decided on Facebook we would meet and try to relocate that old wall in the woods and take pictures of it. During the day this time. We're not as brave as we once were. Okay, so we met and we entered the forest, this time with GPS to help guide our way to where we thought the wall was. Short version of the story is that we never found that wall or even that meadow or pasture in our entire day of searching. Either we were looking in the wrong place or the wall's been taken down. It's possible we walked past the site several times without recognizing it, and it's also possible that we never got close to it. So really, all that I've got in the end is a story. I saw a gathering of dog-headed men at dusk. I saw them disperse. I don't know why either of these things happened or what any of it means. The only thing I know is that dogmen do have a social structure and they do communicate with each other. And that's the true story of the only time I ever saw Dogman.
Thanks, Biggie. And thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after, I think, 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
back for more scary stories.